Hey everybody, what is going on? Hexlex here. I got another Master Duel video for you. Coming at you with some more games with Fiendsmith Azamina Snake Eye. And the big question that I've seen people ask is not, is this the best deck in the format? I think we can all pretty much wholeheartedly agree that it is. But I've seen a lot of people ask, like, is this deck tier 0? Which I think is a pretty interesting question. So, before I kind of get into that kind of bit of a discussion here in the deck profile portion, I will talk about a couple of changes I've made to the list, very minor updates. Put in a couple of copies of Joel and Lockbird after, of course, realizing just how important they were in this meta. I took out some other tech cards we were playing, Nibiru and Triple Tactics Talent, which are both great cards, don't get me wrong, but I think Droll is just so good against so many decks in this meta that having Droll is more important than having those cards. Especially Nib with how many cards can, or how many decks can just play through it. Now that Fiendsmith is a thing, and Azamina, it's not quite as high stonks value as it was before. Those are the only changes I made to the main deck. I made one very minor change to the extra deck as well. I replaced Salamangreat Raging Phoenix with Amphibious Swarmship Ambler Whale. I was on Raging Phoenix because my first draft of this deck had Zealantis, and I ended up cutting it to make some room for other stuff. That said, if you are able to fit in Zealantis, Raging Phoenix is a lot better. That's a pretty well-known Snake Eye OTK line. But like I also just said, I wasn't really able to fit in Zealantis. So I think if we're going to have a Fire Link 4 without Zealantis, Ambler Whale does make a little bit more sense. I think there was a comment that suggested that, and I definitely agreed with that if we're not playing Zealantis there. But the main deck is otherwise the same. This video, we're going to be showing off going second games. I actually have 3 going second games of this deck lined up, so we can see some of those in action. But on the question of, is this deck tier 0? I would say no. I think it's like pretty unquestionably the best deck in the room, but being by far the best deck in the room doesn't necessarily make you tier 0. Now, in the TCG, players like to use this really arbitrary stat of, oh, if a deck has 65, I think, or more % representation rate, then it's tier 0. I don't know who came up with this number or why we just all agree with it. I don't really know what the purpose of that particular metric is. I don't know why it's that specifically. I've asked multiple people about this, both in videos and streams, publicly put it out there, and then asked people in private. Nobody can give me an answer, so it's even harder to detect in Master Duel, though, because of the way that ranked ladder kind of works, right? Not just in that, you know, it's not a tournament format, but also, like, because it's on a tournament format, you're not always incentivized to bring the best deck. So even if there is a one best deck in the format, there are a lot of people who are just going to play other stuff anyway. All that said, I don't think this deck is tier 0. It doesn't feel as dominant as Tier Limit was. I think, of course, we all know that Tier Limit was a tier 0 deck. This deck does not feel nearly as dominant as that was. This feels like maybe about as good as Tenpai was when it first came out. I don't even know if this deck is as dominant as Snake Eye was when it first came out. I'm going to be totally honest with you all. Like, again, this is unquestionably the best deck in the format, but comparing pure Snake Eye when it first came out at full power relative to that meta, comparing this deck to its meta, this current meta, I feel like pure Snake Eye was more powerful at the time where it released than this is right now. And I think most of the reason for that is that, yeah, Fiendsmith and Azamina way raised the ceiling of what Snake Eye can do, but Fiendsmith and Azamina have way raised the ceiling of what everything can do, right? Of course, you don't play Fiendsmith and Azamina and everything, but both those engines independently have, mostly Fiendsmith, of course, have just single-handed, well, by their each own hands. You know what I mean? Anyway, those two archetypes, this whole pack has really raised the power level of the format. Again, this pack did it by itself. So, yeah, I don't think this deck is tier 0. You can maybe argue that it's close. I think it's close-ish, maybe. I don't know. But again, I don't think being single-handedly the best deck in the room necessarily makes you tier 0. It's all about how other decks can relatively keep up, right? And I think about Yubel Fiendsmith, or Fiendsmith Yubel rather, and I think about stuff like Tempai and its variants, and I think about, again, all the other decks that are playing Fiendsmith, and I'm like, are those decks all noticeably worse than Snake Eye? Yes, but are they so much worse that the power gap is like a canyon? No, I don't think so. I think that Fiendsmith Azamina Snake Eye is a little bit better than like every other deck right now. So that's kind of where I'm at with that. Yeah, I mean, like I said before, our build is pretty much the same. I already listed the changes. Again, in the main deck, it was -1 Nib, -1 Triple Attack, +2 Droll. In the extra, it was -1 Raging Phoenix, +1 Ambler Whale. I'm not going to bother going through the deck list card by card. You can see my previous deck profile and or combo guide in the description below if you want some more details on all these cards and how this deck plays. But for now, why don't we take a look at these going second games that I had here on Ranked Ladder. Okay, our first opponent's going to be on Horus Chimera. I'm really surprised my opponent's not playing Fiendsmith and Azamina in Chimera. That's actually one of those decks that those archetypes really raised the ceiling of. Instead, they're still playing like the barrier statue lock, which I thought was a little bit weird, but... Alright, so they're going to lead with the Cornfield Codal. As far as hand traps, we got the Fuolo, so we got that to be grateful for. They're going to go Mirror Sword Knight, and then when they activate the Mirror Sword Knight effect, that's when I'll activate the Fuolos. Also important to note that when I have something like Maxi or Fuolos, I am definitely toggling off until the moment I'm planning on activating it. Otherwise, your opponent might get indication of what kind of a hand trap you have and try to play around it. Drawing other Fuolos would have been nice if they didn't just pass here. Although, to be fair, they did add Chimera Fusion, so I'm just going to fire off Fuolos during my turn, and I'll be able to expect to get some draws off of it. I'm going to lead with Fiendsmith's Tracks. My opponent immediately activates not one, but both Chimera Fusion, which confused me a bit at first, but I guess makes a little more sense when you see what they're kind of going for here. Okay, so they're fusing the Big Wing Baphomet and Gazelle into Chimera, the King of Phantom Beasts. And then after that, the other Chimera Fusion will fuse the Chimera with the Egypt Chain. And this one's going to summon Baphomet, the mythical king of Phantom Beast. Trax will end up adding the Lurie. Of course, I'm going to discard Lurie. Lurie effect will summon itself. Chimera, or I guess Baphomet Treatise Chimera will activate. As will the Big Winged Baphomet to bring back the Mirror Sword Knight. And the Gazelle effect. And the Egypt Chain effect. So yeah, even though my opponent was forced to end their turn early, as you can see, they do still have quite a bit going on here. Adding Nightmare Apprentice, the Fright for Patchwork, Big Wing Baphomet summons out Mirror Sword Knight, so they have a monster negate now. And then they end up milling the Fiend Barrier statue. But I'm going to go Lurie into Fiendsmith's Requiem. And it's at this point, when I go to activate the Requiem effect, when my opponent activates the Graveyard effect of Chimera, which actually lets them summon the Dark Barrier statue out during my turn. So I've seen this combo floating around before, but this is the first time I've ever gotten hit with it. That said, we're still fine. We're going to go Deception, tribute the Veiler in hand to add Hallowed Azamina. Activate Hallowed Azamina, Chainlink 1, Chainlink 2, Wanted. Since we drew that off the Fuolos, we can just use the Hallowed Azamina to send the Wanted while it's still on the Chainlink. That way we get to add the Abel Star and still use the Wanted as fusion material. Going to summon the Mu Murcielago here. Murcielago effect. It's going to activate. This will bait out the Mirror Sword Knight. So don't have to worry about that anymore. Definitely didn't need the OSS here anyway. We already have Bonfire in hand. So moving to battle phase, I'm going to hit over their Barrier statue. You might be wondering why I didn't summon Diabel and battle over their Baphomet as well. It's because I didn't want them to activate this, this effect here, right? During your opponent's turn, you can manage to card from your graveyard, check out if you're banished, blah, blah, summon it, right? Because that will allow them to summon out their Chimera, or maybe their Mirror Sword Knight. Either way, I just don't want them to have more bodies here. Plus, we can get rid of this by banishing it. Or just not sending it to the graveyard, in general. Alright, so Diabel Star will set the OSS here. I'm going to link into the IP Masquerena. That way I can use Hallowed Azamina to put Murcielago back from the graveyard instead of from the field. And then we can activate Hallowed Azamina yet again. I'll actually end up sending the OSS. I guess I could have just sent the Continuous spell, though, because... Well, my thought process here was like, okay, I can OSS to add Snake Eye Ash, normal summon Snake Eye Ash, and then if they've been holding Valor all this time, I'll still have Bonfire for Poplar. But, I mean, we know 3 of the cards in their hand, right? It's the Fright for Patchwork, the Nightmare Apprentice, and whatever Gazelle added, I think? Was it Chimera Fusion? I don't think so. Anyway. Oh no, the last effect was to Foolish the statues. I think we only know 2 of the cards in hand. Right. Okay. But at this point, we can pretty much just start going full combo. It is main phase 2, of course. We're not going to win this turn, but we can set up enough disruption where our opponent's not going to be able to out what we've got here. Droll? I think Droll is pretty good against Chimera, right? I mean, in theory, if they led with like an Edge Imp search, then we could Droll and that would probably put a damper on their parade. Now here we're going to go for the Lacrima off the sequence. Or Lacrima. I don't know. I really don't. I made a little bit of a misplay here. I should not have used the sequence to make this Apo. I should have used the Lacrima and kept a Link 2 on the field. It would have been a lot easier to go into Promethean Princess here, but it's whatever. It's really not that big of a deal in the grand scheme of things, because we can go into SP and actually banish this Baphomet, right? And then we'll get the graveyard effect. And we can still end on, like, because we're going to bring back 2 Snake Eye monsters, so we can still go SP plus Snake Eye monster into Flamberge, and then, or into Promethean Princess. Promethean Princess bring back Flamberge, and then go into Ambler Whale, and we're still ending on pretty much the same end board, so. I even debated not going into Promethean Princess and just ending on Apo, Ilya Sylvia, SP. It's like, the big question there is, okay, what's better, having SP on the field to use this effect, or Prom Princess in the graveyard to use her effect? But I think the tiebreaker there is that going into the Prom Princess line also gets me Flamberge, plus something to summon off of it, plus the 2 extra bodies when it goes. It's just a lot more advantage, so. Alright, there's our first game. We've still got a couple more to check out, though. Let's see our next one. Okay, so this opponent is playing Fiendsmith White Forest with no Azamina, which is really, really weird. We found out in our Fiendsmith Azamina White Forest video that putting all 3 in the same deck is a little bit much, but you would think if you're going to pick between Fiendsmith or Azamina, it would be Azamina, but no, they're playing Fiendsmith White Forest. They're also playing a small Bestial package as well. Going second. Again, we're going second for all these games here. I don't actually Fuelos when they put Lurie on the board. I'm going to wait to Fuelos until they activate the Requiem effect. I guess I didn't need to do that here. I didn't need to, like, guarantee to get the draw, because I already have 3 starters in my hand, but they have call by anyway, so I guess it doesn't really end up mattering. Actually, it does end up mattering. That was a misplay on my part. I definitely should have used Fuelos when they had Lurie up, because then I could have used Ash Blossom on the Requiem effect. But also, like, I don't know if I would have even wanted to do that, right? Ash Blossom on Requiem isn't even good here, because they led with Tract. All they're going to get is just the Engraver body here. So that was actually fine. Yeah, we save our Ash Blossom there. I'm also not ashing this Magnum Hut search. I figured at this point they're probably going to go into a Beatrice and I can Ash Blossom that. And let's see. Yep, there's Lacrima. Lacrima F. Bring back the Fabled Lurie. Oh, that's right. Oh, so they end up just going for a 3-mat Apo. That's right. Lacrima, put back the sequence, set 2, and then pass. And also adding Phantasme. Alright. So, I don't know. The thing about Appaloosa, I really don't think it's as bad as a lot of people say. And this game kind of highlights why. So, I'm going to lead with Deception, Tribute Valor, activate Hallowed Azamina. I mean, let's be real. If I wanted to out this Apo, I could just do so with my Diabell Star. But I figured I could just do so with the Recielago, and the Recielago will actually drop the attack of the Appaloosa as well down to 1900. Now here they're going to have an effect Veiler for the Recielago, which will not only negate the search effect, but also negate the attack reduction effect. So now the Appo's back up to 2400, aka, you know, quote-unquote 3 negates. Gonna go for the Diabell Star here, activate Diabell Star effect, and they actually use their other Imperm, which is really weird and 100% a misplay. They should have used the Appaloosa effect since I can already battle over it, but like, this is exactly what I'm talking about when I say, because people are all like, oh, Appaloosa has to get banned. It's the thing that people very disingenuously say is that Appaloosa is always multiple negates. Appaloosa, in my experience, playing Master Duel, not just recently, but over my whole time playing Master Duel with multiple different decks, Appaloosa is like, you are probably going to get one negate off, and that's it. Because Appaloosa is so easy to out if you don't just battle over it, which is even easier when it's only made with 2 materials, something that a lot of people complain about anyways, like, oh, even if it's only 2 mats, it's still 2 negates. It's very rarely 2 negates. There's Triple Tack, there's Imperm, there's, I don't know, pick literally any board breaker. I really don't think this card is overpowered. I've always said that, and I think that's still true even in this meta. I really don't think it is. Anyway, now that we've outed their whole board, main phase 2, we're going to go into 1-for-1 pitch Ash Blossom for Snake Eye Ash, and then now we can just go full combo here. They've only got 1 card left in their hand. If it's Nib, then whatever, they just wanted it more. There's not really much you can do at that point, right? I'm just going to go for it here, though. I think if they have Nib, they probably would have dropped it on me already. Maybe. They might have dropped it on me already. They could still be holding it, but... Alright, Poplar put back the Snake Eye Diabell Star. Snake Eye Diabell Star to summon itself, putting back the Poplar. We can then pivot into... Oh, I made a misplay here, right? I pivoted into Fiendsmith stuff purely out of habit, totally forgetting that I already... Oh, wait, no, I'm sorry. I'm thinking of a different game. I thought I led with Tract. That was the last game we led with Tract. Never mind. Yeah, so even if they get to summon their Phantasme and draw... Well, draw 2, put back 1, draw 1, that's whatever. Like, we know... Oh, yeah, I forgot we knew what their last card was. It was Phantasme. I don't really care if they have Phantasme. I can still just out their whole board. Like, it doesn't matter. We are so unbelievably fine. Anyway, got one more duel to finish off with. Let's see that last one. And for our final game, let's face off against Fiendsmith Yubel. Once again, like the other duels, we are going to be going second here. Although this time, I think we just, yeah, we opened with a bunch of pretty good hand traps. We got Droll, Fuelos, and Imperm on top of VODS, Azamina, and OSS. So I'm feeling pretty good about our start here. Poe's going to lead with Tract for Lurie, and then they pitched Fuelos, which I thought was really weird. Like, I get that you think, oh, I don't need Fuelos, but don't you still need to special summon the Lurie? In any case, I'm going to go for Droll and Lockbird here. So the reason I use Droll, even though I have a Fuelos in my hand, is that, again, I already have both OSS and VODS Azamina. Like, I definitely have plays, right? So I don't need to draw any cards to have plays. But if I can Droll and stop my opponent from making plays altogether, that's going to be ideal. Here they have a call by, which is also kind of fine, because I do still have the Fuelos in hand. Alright, so we know they have Lurie and 2 unknown cards. Here I am going to Fuelos as soon as they summon the Lurie, which I should have done, I think, in that last game as well, but that's all good. They have an Ash Blossom for the Fuelos. So I will say, even though we opened to 3 hand traps, our opponent was able to counter 2 of them. But still, all they're really able to do here, because they led with Tract, all they're really able to do here is exactly just pass on an Engraver and nothing else. Yeah, you gotta remember, people, this is not the TCG or OCG. You know, Tract is not full Fabled combo by itself, or Fabled, full Fiendsmith combo by itself. So I could have gone for Ilya Sylvia here, but I decided to go for Brasilago and see if I could bait out a hand trap, like a Valor or something, an Ash Blossom maybe. Because, like, you know, if I can do that, great. Then I don't even have to worry about making Ilya Sylvia. I can just focus purely on OT Kang. But if they don't, then whatever. I just get a free search, and then I can still just summon the Ilya Sylvia before, you know, going off and just probably winning anyway. Since all they have is Engraver and 1 card in hand. So, alright, that's going to do it for this video, I think. Yeah, that'll just about do it. So thank you, as always, for watching. Super appreciate you. For making it to the end. You know, it's like I said recently, you know, I definitely super hugely appreciate YouTube members and Patreon supporters. That support is invaluable. But honestly, one of the greatest ways you can support this or any YouTube channel is just watching the video till the end. You would not believe how far that actually goes. So I really do want to thank every one of you who did so. But that's going to do it for now. Let's move on to our outro. Hey everybody, Hexlex here. Just want to give you a huge thanks for watching all the way to the very end of the video. Believe it or not, that is actually one of the best ways that you can support the channel, is by watching the videos in their entirety. But there are many ways in which you can support the channel if you are so interested. The names that you're seeing on screen here, I gotta give an extra special thanks to, because these are people who have chosen to either become a member on YouTube, which if you're interested you can do as well via the join button next to the subscribe button down there, or have signed up over on Patreon and become members there. Link to that is going to be in the description below. Without the support that is being offered by, again, all the people that you're seeing on screen right here, I would not be able to take the time to dedicate to uploading daily YouTube videos. So thank you so very much. But there are also other ways you can support as well. Again, link to the description below. If you like my deck tracker that you'll see in a lot of my videos, the Untapped Companion, you can download that for free, and if you use my affiliate link down there, then that also goes a long way towards supporting the channel. That's again free. So is subscribing here on YouTube. That's also free and a huge way to support. You can also check out Twitch, once again linked in the description below. Following and subscribing over there will not only support as well, but also give you notifications of when I go live if you want to catch some of the live streams. But really, no matter how you choose to support, it all adds up and it all definitely means the world. So thank you, each and every one of you. For now, this is Hexlex. I'm going to be signing out, but more than that, I'm hoping that you have a fantastic day.